Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video, we'll be taking a look at California's 27th Congressional District in the next episode of our Congressional District series. So the first video we did was the 22nd District of California, which is again right up here in the Central Valley. And we're going, we're kind of staying in the same region, we're just going down a little bit to the 27th District, which is held by Republican Mike Garcia. So if you find these videos interesting, please give this video a like. You can watch the 22nd District video if you haven't already. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. I liked it, so hopefully you can watch the 22nd District video as well. And so I think we're just going to get right into it here. So the 27th Congressional District is located in suburban Los Angeles. As you can see, this is the city of Los Angeles itself. It's deep blue, super urban. Just LA. It's a very large city, has a lot of districts that give the Democrats a lot of seats in the House. What we have here is a lighter blue district above all these other districts, and it is more inland, but it's the suburbs, really. And so what you see here is kind of a mix of partisanship. So the largest city in the 27th Congressional District is, of course, the city of Palmdale and also Lancaster. And Santa Clarita is another big one. I think it's bigger than Palmdale and Lancaster, but Lancaster, Santa Clarita, and Palmdale are the three largest cities, and they're all pretty blue leaning. Then the rural areas kind of up here are the more, I shouldn't say urban, I shouldn't say rural, I should say exurban areas are very Republican leaning. And ultimately, you get a district that voted for Joe Biden, but is more friendly to Republicans down the ballot. And what this means is that federally, like at the presidential level, this seat is Democratic leaning. Joe Biden won the seat in 2020 by about 13%. I will pull it up right now. And what we saw was Democrats did very well here federally. However, what happened was Mike Garcia got reelected in 2020, and so the district boundaries changed due to redistricting, obviously. And yes, he won by literally only 333 votes, so it was very, very narrow. He won by the skin of his teeth, quite literally. But, it's still worth mentioning that his old district was a Biden plus 10 district, and he won by literally 0.01%. So he outran Trump by about 10% in this district, which is a very strong showing. Now, he would need to do a little better to win re-election this year because he's now in a Biden plus 12.5 district because his old district was Biden plus 10, his new district Biden plus 12.5. And the thing is, it's very left trending. So in 2016, if you go back to that election, this district was a little more Republican. So the 27th district in 2016 voted for Hillary Clinton by about, a little over 9%. So it was still Democratic leaning, but it was 3% more Republican. And so if it trends that way again, or even if it trends half that, Mike Garcia will have to overperform Trump by a lot more in 2022 to win re-election. And that's hard for him because we're getting to be a more polarized country, and voters who are voting Democrat at the federal level are starting to, that the down ballot lag we've seen is starting to kind of close that gap is starting to kind of close here. And we've seen that in other suburban seats that were Democratic at the presidential level in 2016. In 2016, these House elections, the GOP won a lot of seats in suburban LA. And then in 2018, the Democrats flipped 4 of them, or 5 of them actually. And so, 2022 is not going to be a blue wave like 2018 was, but trends are going to continue. Trends don't just stop because Joe Biden's the president, right? And so ultimately, what I think we're going to be seeing here is a showing of strength for the Democratic Party in the 27th Congressional District and other suburbs. So is that strength enough to knock off Mike Garcia? Well, let's talk about that. So first of all, it's worth talking about who Mike Garcia's opponent is. So so the first ever time we held an election in the with Mike Garcia in the 27th, or in the 27th district, which was the 25th district at the time. I know it's complicated, but it got redistricted. It became the 27th district, but he's running in this district anyways. It was a May 2020 special election, and Garcia was able to beat out Democratic opponent Christy Smith, and he was an underdog. Christy Smith was expected to win this race because in 2018, the Democrats were able to win it by, about 9%. And then the Democratic incumbent there resigned, and we saw Christy Smith come in to try to, salvage the seat for the Democrats, and she got beat by Mike Garcia. She ran again in November. She tried to go for round 2, and she came very close, but it did not go too well for her in this election. Now, there was higher turnout. Obviously, both candidates got more votes, but Garcia was still able to hold on because he ran such a good campaign. And Christy Smith is, as we know, not the best campaigner. She was a state senator from, I think, a state assembly woman from the region, but she was very, very, um, she had a hard time reaching out to these voters, whether it's because of the pandemic, whether it's just because she wasn't a great campaigner. She was not able to win and bring it home for Democrats, even though Joe Biden won the seat easily at the presidential level. So now that she's running again, a lot of Democrats are like, oh, no, not this again. She's not good at this. Why are we running her again? And the thing is, I don't love, like, Christy Smith isn't super electable. She's not their best candidate that they could have gotten in this district, right? That being said, I've heard that she is getting, better people to run her campaign. I think she's actually trying to win this time because, look, she's over 2. She knows she needs to change stuff up to win this time, and I think he's doing that. And I think that is a reason for Democrats to be encouraged. But the most important thing to talk about here is the primary. And that happened on June 7th. So again, the way California does their primary is in a jungle system where we have basically every candidate, you can see real candidates. There are a lot of candidates here that ran. Just Democrats, Republicans, everyone running in this primary, and then the top 2 finishers advance to a runoff that is in November. That's a general election. So, we saw Quay Courtney, Ruth Livanos, David Rudnick, and Mark Pierce. They all ran, but they all got eliminated and, ostracized from the race due to this primary. And so, again, Christy Smith and Mike Garcia were like the only 2 people that actually got, decent shares of the vote, and they were able to move on to this November runoff. Now, if we take a look at the combined totals, again, only 91% of the votes in, which California sucks at counting votes, by the way. Screw you, California. Count your votes faster, please. But with almost all with most of the votes in, essentially, we've seen that the GOP have combined for about 50.4% of the vote because 47.1 plus this 2.2 and 1.1, which is 3.3, is equal to 50.4%, and then the Democrats combined for 49.6%. So in this jungle primary, the Democrats only lost by 0.8%, which is a very, very good showing for them. You know why? Because primaries are more, the electorate that shows up in a primary in June is much more Republican than that of an electorate that shows up in a primary in November. Democrats, especially in a seat like California 27, which again has a significant population of voters of color. As you can see right here, this district is majority minority, and the plurality of voters here are Hispanic, but again, you have significant Black and Asian and even Native American populations here. And so what we're seeing here is that Democrats, and this is really across California as well, Democrats show up more in November than they do for a primary election. And the fact that Democrats came within 1% of winning the outright generic vote in this district is very, very good for them. It is a very strong showing. And it, really, I think, spooked Mike Garcia because he has pivoted to the left on a lot of issues since then. Mike Garcia voted to overturn the 2020 election, right? Like, he was a very, very conservative Republican in Congress, and he backed Donald Trump all the time, right? Now what we're seeing is that he's pivoted to the left. He's trying to be more moderate to appeal to Democrats of his district because I think that, again, this primary might have really spooked him. So what we saw was that he voted to codify gay marriage. This is a socially liberal position very popular in a district like this because, again, this is northern LA County. It can vote Republican at times, but it's very socially liberal. The people here are wealthier, college-educated voters who might be conservative economically, might want lower taxes and vote Republican as a result of that, but ultimately they are pro-gay marriage, they're pro-trans rights, they are very socially liberal, and they agree with the Democratic Party much more on these social issues than a conservative Republican like Garcia. And so, I mean, I think if anyone was trying to tell you, oh, this primary runoff didn't matter, or this primary didn't matter, Garcia is still going to win, even though he didn't do well in the primary, I think they were proven, really, I think they were proven wrong by Garcia's vote to codify gay marriage, because he was a very conservative Republican prior to that. He was actually really well liked by the Trump base, and now he's getting flamed because of this vote he took. And so ultimately, I think tactically was a smart move for Garcia. Again, I don't know exactly what Garcia's exact views on it are, but he voted the way he voted. And so, quite frankly, I think that the Democratic Party in the 27th district should be pretty happy about where they are. Again, Garcia is a very tough guy to beat. He's a very good incumbent, again. And, ultimately, it really depends on how bad the generic ballot is for the Democratic Party, because I think that the Democrats are going to have a bit of a harder time in November than they did in last November 2020, because what we saw was that the Democratic Party in November, in 2020, essentially, Biden won by 4.4%, and he carried this district by 12.5, right? So this district voted about 8% to the left of the country, right? And so that on the surface is pretty good because, again, I currently have the Democrats only losing the generic ballot by 3, maybe 4%. So if that holds up, it votes 8% to the left of the country. Mike Garcia would still lose by 3, 4, 5%. However, generic congressional Republicans do a lot better than their counterparts at the federal level. So if Donald Trump were running for president against Joe Biden today, Biden would probably win the district, but Mike Garcia would have a good chance of winning re-election because, again, there's still some down ballot lag. So it really comes down to how much down ballot lag you think there will be. Do you think that these suburbs are going to kind of halt their movement for a cycle because of Joe Biden's unpopularity? Or do you think the trends are just going to continue? Do you think that Mike Garcia is just in a district a little too blue for him? So again, this is a toss-up district. I think both opinions are valid here. I think you could say Garcia's favored. I think you could also say that Christy Smith is favored to win the seat. So again, it's just very important to remember that these toss-up races are just all very, very in play for both parties. So yeah. So for now, I will give my prediction. So I think the 27th district is going to narrowly flip this year, which again is it's not a given. It's not safe Democrat. But when you look at this primary, the fact that Democrats literally came within 0.8%, all they have to do is do 1% better in November, and usually they do 20 points better. So I don't think Christy Smith's going to win by 20 points, but I think she's going to edge it out and probably win by, maybe a point or two. This will be close again, but ultimately I think that Roe being overturned really, really hurt Republicans in suburban districts like this. And that really energized Democrats. A lot of moderate, socially liberal voters, like I've talked about, pro-trans, pro-gay marriage, pro-abortion, but maybe want lower taxes are going to come home for the Democrats the way they did in 2020. And so I do think that the Democratic Party is going to narrowly flip this district. Could I be wrong? Yeah, it's a toss-up district, but for now, that's my prediction. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with a friend, share it on Twitter, do whatever you want. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.